Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking Only Murders in the Building, Season 2, Episode 3, The Last Day of Bunny Folger. If you're new here, this is how the video goes down. I'm going to recap everything that happened throughout this episode, talk about things I liked, slap a rating on the episode at the end, and then really dive deep into who I think the killer is going to be. A lot of clues in this episode, but also a lot of questions raised as well. If you guys enjoy this video, please make sure to like it. Please subscribe if you're new. But let's talk about Only Murders in the Building, Season 2, Episode 3. Alright, so this episode begins with Oliver asking Mrs. Gambolini, the pet parrot, the questions, right? We got that ending at the end of the last episode where the parrot says, I know who did it. I actually don't think this is a parrot. I just don't know what kind of bird it is. I just know that it mimics back what it last heard, right? So obviously the bird doesn't know anything. That was some sort of throwaway thing in the last episode. And now in the beginning of this episode, we see that the bird is just telling Oliver to fuck off. You know, and it was a pretty funny thing. Martin Short is hilarious like always. And so they sort of give up on questioning the bird. Anyone who thought that was going to be a big thing at the end of episode 2, sorry, it's just leading to nothing right now. And so Steve Martin now talks about how his connection with Bunny could be some sort of key piece to all this. He talks about how maybe Bunny was his half-sister. As we know, his father had some sort of affair with the artist of the painting, and also maybe with Bunny's mother, right? So he sort of dives deep into this. Sort of reminds me of Star Wars, how Luke and Leia also kissed but didn't know that they were brother and sister. He talks about this whole story, sort of capturing that same sort of feeling here. And then they decide to really think back on her last day. They try to piece together everything that happened in that day as they find the receipts, all pertaining to her last day. And so this is where I think we have to take everything we see in this episode with a grain of salt, because it is Mabel, Oliver, and Charles trying to piece the day together. So there could be a lot of holes in the story, or a lot of things that we don't really see that actually happened that they don't really even talk about because they just don't know about it yet. So now we get to see Bunny's last day. She wakes up, she's talking to her parrot. She goes through her whole daily routine as she's working out. But this is also her last day as board president of the Arconia. Now, as we know, this is her last day on Earth, but she doesn't know that, right? And so she's like practicing her speech, she's working out. She's unsure if she really thinks that quitting is like the right decision for the Arconia. So those first little seeds are planted here. As we'll see later on this episode, she'll have a decision where she actually wants to stay as board president, which is very interesting. And so, she bumps into Charles and Mabel and Oliver throughout the day. But one important key piece I think throughout this episode is that we see her go to this local cafe, and she decides to tip the waiter, Ivan, a very large sum of money. I guess she has become friends with this person over the last couple of years. She knows that she's leaving to Boca Raton soon, so she wants to give him some money so that he can get some DJ equipment that he's always wanted. Still sort of weird. I feel like this is sort of important in a way, like how she gives him so much money. Maybe someone knows about this sort of deal, realizes she has a lot of money, and maybe they want to kill her for that money, or some other reason. But after this, we see her talking to Nina, who will be the protege, or the person that will be stepping up as the new board of the Arconia after she has left. And so she's pregnant now, right? And they seem to be like a perfect match. It seems like Nina's on her shit, just like how Bunny was, knows everything about the Arconia, everything about the tenants that are living there. And it seems to be, a perfect match, as she's a lot like Bunny, right? Or at least so we think, or at least so Bunny thinks. So they talk about whatever. Then Bunny talks to Uma, and they talk about moving to Florida. Uma makes some sort of joke about how she might break into her apartment to steal some furs. As we know that after Bunny's death, she does sort of break into the apartment with Howard, as she has a key. She has a spare key for the apartment. But she's looking for the painting, not just some fur coats. So now after this, we see Bunny go into the elevator. Charles and Mabel go into the lift with her. It breaks down. She's able to fix it. But one funny line is that when she leaves, she has her big fur coat on. She says, I just realized that I hate the heat. So now this makes her realize that I don't even want to go to Boca Raton. Like, why am I going to go somewhere where it's always hot? Like, that's not even what I like. And so this is where she starts to think, like, maybe stepping down as the president of the Arconia, like, isn't such a good idea. So now she goes to this board meeting where she's hosting this whole big meeting or whatever. And she realizes that she doesn't want to step down. So she decides not to step down. Nina sort of talks about how she's been faking what she's been saying to Bunny this whole time, pretty much just telling her what she wants to hear so that she could step in and bring the Arconia into the 21st century. She sort of says that Bunny's a relic. There's all these new ideas that she wants to bring in, and Bunny says that she doesn't trust Nina, and they have this sort of like heated argument back and forth, which feeds into the idea that Nina is now the prime suspect, as we'll see by the end of this episode. And I think that I think this could go two ways. I think that the show is obviously telling us that Nina is the prime suspect, that we should believe that Nina is the one who killed Bunny, right? So usually when this type of show does that, it's not actually Nina, right? But I do think that there's multiple people at play here of who actually killed Bunny. I could see it being that maybe we think Nina's the killer. Maybe in the next episode or two, we see that Nina does have an alibi, that she wasn't actually there at the Arconia or anywhere near Bunny at that time. So now we think, okay, Nina's not a suspect anymore, right? But then I think that maybe she hired someone. Maybe she was hungry for that position as board president, that she hired someone else. So she's not directly the killer, but she's behind it all. I think maybe it could be even 1, 2, or 3 people. Who even knows? I still think Bunny's mother could play some sort of factor into this. Before we dive too deep into that, let's just talk about the ending now. So now in the final minutes of the show, we see the trio pin Nina as the prime suspect, as the main suspect in this case. And so after we see this, we actually get another glimpse into Bunny's final moments as she actually goes to the trio when they're having a party at the end of season 1. And she sort of wants to be invited in, right? She talks about giving them champagne. The trio give her some sort of podcast merchandise. That's how she got the sweatshirt. And then they don't invite her in, right? So this makes Bunny cry, or so we think it makes Bunny cry, and that's why she's crying. I actually think there's a different reason as to why she's crying. And they feel bad. So they open up the door. She's missing. We see her back in her apartment, and she gets a knock at the door, right? We see some sort of boots, sort of gray pants. I do think this is a male figure. It obviously looks like a male figure. It could be a throwaway. Maybe it is a female. But I just feel like the actual killer will be a male this time, just because last season was a woman. That's just my own thing that I think. And we see that she gets attacked. We just see the shadows moving. We don't get to see any face. Looks like maybe the murderer is wearing a mask, and she's killed there, right? But now we see Mabel go into her apartment where Bunny is at. Now this makes me think that how did Bunny end up in Mabel's apartment, right? Still alive even. Did Bunny just stumble warily into that apartment after she got stabbed, looking for some help? Or maybe the murderer planted her in there, But I feel like if the murderer did that, wouldn't Bunny try to get out of the room? Or, she was sort of weak, but didn't seem weak enough to maybe open up the door and leave. So still some questions over how Bunny got into the apartment, and we see that Mabel just turns to the left, she gasps, and the episode cuts. Now, we know the moments that happen after that. Bunny says the words 14, and she says savage, right, which obviously pertains to the painting. So, now, my quick rating for this episode is a 3.8 out of 5. I thought it was another great episode. But now talking about the actual killer, like I said, Nina being the suspect could be a red herring, could be a throwaway for us to get our mind off of who the actual killer is. But I feel like she does play a part into this. She does have a clear motive for killing Bunny. Now, it's obviously too clear. It's obviously something that the show wants us to hyper-focus on. It's like, oh, Nina has this clear motive. It's obviously her. Well, we're only in episode 3. They're not going to give us the killer in episode 3, right? But they could give us one. Maybe there's 2, maybe there's 3 killers. Maybe, because obviously Nina doesn't really, I don't know if she knows about the painting, but that's not really her motive from what we've seen so far. She wants the job as board president. But the painting does play a part into this. She gets some weird phone calls throughout this episode, and she says, I don't want to talk about the painting right now. That's obviously probably the murderer or someone that is playing into the murder. So the painting has a part to play in this. But I think Nina does as well. I think maybe it could be some sort of collab between Nina, maybe Bunny's mother. We know Bunny's mother sort of wants that painting. Maybe she was calling her daughter about the painting, and Bunny didn't want to give it up because maybe it reminded her of her father, And maybe that's what even she's talking about in that one scene where she talks to Ivan about don't love only one thing, because if you lose that one thing, then you have nothing. I don't know what she could be talking about there. I'm thinking my guess is her father, and maybe also Charles's father. Maybe it's the same father. And maybe, I don't want to say he died recently, but maybe she knows that she's gonna have to give up the painting soon, and that's something that she loves because it reminds her of her father. I don't know. It's very difficult right now to try to make sense of anything because we're so early on. Once we get to episode 6 or 7, we'll have a lot more pieces and we can really talk and dissect and have all these clues that are legitimate. Right now, all these clues are very vague and could be just nothing by the end of the season. So my final thoughts of this episode is that I love the style of it. I love how we get to sympathize with Bunny. I thought the actress that played her did a great job here. She was phenomenal. She was really funny. She actually made me like this character a lot more, like how I'm sure a lot of us do now. We sympathize with her. We feel bad for her, especially with that crying scene at the end. It's a Mystery 101 tactic to sympathize with the victim so that we can really, really want to try to find the murderer and wrap up this whole mystery. Last thoughts on Nina. I do think she has a part to play in this. I know it's obvious, but I do think she's maybe even behind all of it. I do think she'll play a big factor in the murder of Bunny. And like I already said it, the painting, there's nothing legitimate here to really make a strong stance on the prime suspect. But I do agree that I think Nina should be looked at pretty thoroughly. So I'll just say that. But comment down below who you guys think the killer is right now. What do you guys think of this episode? If you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it. Please subscribe if you're new, as we'll keep up with other shows and other movies. And that's pretty much it. So have a great rest of the day, and I will see you on the next video.